Well, hello, everybody, and good evening out there. Hey, my name is Angel Romero. Some of you know me as the host of the Ballots and Brews podcast, but I get to be live and in the flesh, at least digitally, so to speak, tonight. I get to come out from behind the podcast, from behind the microphone, to try something new with you all tonight. We are debuting the first of our Happy Hour live segments this week here, courtesy of Ballots and Brews. So we are really excited to give this a try. You know, I have just been a voice on your Apple iTunes perhaps lately, but wanted to try a different format. Over the summer we decided to take a break from the podcast because one can only take so much of covering the Kansas legislature at a time, and so we do take a little bit of a hiatus, a little bit of a break over the summer from doing the podcast. But that does not mean that politics in the state of Kansas or state government or local government stops at all. So we want a chance to keep you all informed out there about the things that are happening, especially in the lead up to an election that we have coming up here in just over a month with our primary election, and then of course a general election in the fall. And so y'all, we can't go that long without keeping you updated and talking about what is going on. And as all of you all know, there is a lot to talk about. There is so much to talk about. That's why this is Ballots and Brews, because we can't talk about the craziness that's been going on without having at least a pint or two. And so that is right, because we are Ballots and Brews, we couldn't leave out the brews part. So I actually get to drink with you all. We usually when I do the podcast, that was the other thing. We record the podcast at like noon or like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and y'all, I have like a day job, and that would be severely frowned upon if I actually drank at my office. So I don't usually get to imbibe and usually get to live up the brews part of Ballots and Brews when I get to record these episodes, when I record the podcast episodes. So now that we're in evening, I get to say cheers to you all as we talk about a whole mess of crazy issues that have been going on lately. So again, new format that we wanted to try out here at Ballots and Brews, a new way of getting some really important information to you all. As we get started, of course, we didn't forget the brews part. So tonight I am drinking a maple brunch pale ale from Iron Rail, a new beer that I have actually not had the chance to try before. I am usually a pale ale kind of person because I'm weak and I can't handle sours or darker beers, so pale ales are usually my beer of choice. But I've not had this one from Iron Rail. We're also, we should note, doing a local beer inside of a local brewery glass. This is a Blind Tiger glass with Iron Rail beer, so we're just doing local on local tonight. I am curious if anyone has had this beer before, or if you have had brunch at Iron Rail, because I do have to admit this beer would be delicious with brunch, and that's kind of how it's promoted. Iron Rail, for those of you who aren't familiar, Iron Rail does do brunch now. And so you can go over there and grab yourself a maple brunch pale ale and enjoy brunch at Iron Rail. So let me know in the comments, y'all. That's the other cool part of this. This could be interactive in a way that the podcast wasn't. So feel free to say hi down in the comments below. Leave us a shout out. Let us know what you're drinking tonight. If you've got a local brew that's your favorite, let us know in the comments below. And I really am curious if any of you have tried the Iron Rail brunch before, because I do love me some brunch. And so I want to know how it is. I want to know if we should need to go try it out. I'm pretty sure we do. But let me know, and let me know if you've got another Iron Rail beer that's your favorite too. I actually haven't been there, period, in a while, so I'm always in the mood to try out new things. Of course, this is a good time for a beer in Top City. We just had, just a few weeks ago, we had Tap That, the brew festival that's back after everything with COVID-19. And of course, just this past weekend, we had Brew at the Zoo, one of my personal favorite events in Top City, because there's nothing better than trying great beer and having a tiger stare at you and wondering what the heck is going on. So we had a great night there last weekend. So, let us know in the comments too if there's any great beer events in Top City that you're looking forward to, or in the state of Kansas for that matter, because there's great beer going on all over the state of Kansas. So let us know down in the comment section if you've got something that you are looking forward to this season. So cheers to all of you. I take a drink because we have lots of things to talk about. We're going to do a couple things on tonight's show. So first up, as you are probably a little aware by now because of the 11 million Facebook posts you've probably seen in the last couple of weeks, there is an election coming up in just a little over a month, a primary election And so we're going to do a lot in that primary election in terms of narrowing down races at the state level and at the local level. But we also have a very, very, very important constitutional amendment that is going to be on the ballot this August regarding abortion. And so, again, this is something you may have heard just a little bit about. But you know what this is? This ballot issue, anytime we have an issue on the ballot to vote on, it's a little confusing, especially during a primary election, because sometimes the rules can look a little different during a primary, or people think the rules are a little different during a primary. And so tonight we want to help cut through some of that confusion, explain to you what exactly you're going to see on your ballot. And to do that, we're going to talk to the best people to do that with, which is the Shawnee County Election Office. Our friend Andrew, the Shawnee County Election Commissioner, will be joining us here in just a moment to talk about that. And then when it comes to actually getting people to vote, actually getting people to the polls, off the couch and out there to vote, we're going to talk about this way cool tool called Voter to Voter. That is a tool that you can use with your communities and with your friends and with those that that are in your networks to actually get them to go to the polls. And I promise it's cool, not just in the like Angel's a big, huge election nerd way, cool, but cool in a way that's, I think, going to be really, really neat for everybody. So without any further ado, again, I mentioned our special guest tonight is Shawnee County Election Commissioner Andrew Howell. And so we're going to go ahead and bring him into the conversation tonight. So we are so excited to have him. And hey, there he is. Andrew, how are we doing?
Doing good.
Awesome. Hey, I was just telling folks, I am enjoying some pale ale from Iron Rail tonight is my beer of choice. So
very nice.
Yeah, it's when we're talking about elections and whatnot, why not have a pint or two, I figure. So it's a good way to get things started.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking some time. I know, of course, the closer we get to Election Day, things are going to get pretty busy in your world. So thanks for spending some time with us tonight.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to visit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll dive into things. So we just told folks, we have a primary election coming up. And for some folks know exactly what that means, and some folks are a little unsure about what that means and what that looks like. So, just in terms of dates, there's a lot of dates coming up here in the next few weeks. Do you want to talk about kind of what's important to know about some of those dates we have coming up?
I do. Probably the first thing for folks to remember is the last day to register to vote is July 12th. You want to get your registration corrected or updated for your last or any changes in either address or name are typically the two things that you find. So don't forget to get your registration current so you don't have to vote a provisional. You don't have to wonder if you're registered or not, which is a critical part of getting to vote and being in the poll book. Advanced mail ballots, we will begin mailing out on the 13th of July. So I expect them to hit people's mailbox somewhere between maybe that Saturday, clear up till the 18th, something like that. But they will be in the mail on the 13th for those that have already filled out the application and gotten it to us. And then early in-person voting will begin in the office on July 18th on that Monday. Office hours, we've done extended hours to make sure people who work have got plenty of time. 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday for that first week, and then the same thing for that next week after that, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then till noon on the Monday preceding election on August the 1st. So quite a bit of time in there, quite a few hours, tried to make it as easy as possible. And then of course, election day is August 2nd, just about a month away, and the polls open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at just over 90 polling places across the county. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that counter. We've got that up on our screen there for folks to see. And yeah, you're right, it is crazy to think that primary election day will be just a little over a month away, and that voter registration deadline as well. I'll have folks take note of that is just away on July 12th. And so we're going to review a little bit just about all the different ways that you can get yourself registered to vote ahead of the primary election. So lots of dates to know. One of the things I think that's kind of interesting on that calendar, sometimes people don't always think about, is that the public test of the voting equipment. You want to talk a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, one of the things that I think maybe people don't fully appreciate is that we are required by law to test the voting equipment and verify that it does report results as expected or as it was designed to. So we have to do that before the election. I believe it's on the 26th is our, public test. Yeah, 26th. we will be doing an early pre-test. And then actually several days after election, we will also be doing a post-test. And additionally, we don't have it on here because I think we have to put it on the website closer to time, but we will also be doing, which is now required by law, an actual audit, an actual full multiple precinct, multiple race audit. And we'll actually have teams of Republicans and Democrats going through the ballots, verifying that the count that we reported is in fact what they're seeing in the ballot boxes that are part of that audit. It's now required by state law. So, we have a piece of paper for every voter. I think it's important for people in Shawnee County to know this is not recorded to a hard drive. We have multiple layers of security. So that's part of what I like about those tests. The public can come view them. They get a chance to come see how it really works and ask any questions they may have both before and after Election Day.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's so great that is something that is publicly available. So if folks have questions or want to see how things work, I encourage you to come out and watch that process live out in the open.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and as things come up, so one of the things when it comes to primaries, sometimes people have all kinds of questions about who can vote in a primary, how does registration work, and that sort of thing. So can you talk a little bit about what the requirements look like for that? And of course, we have this constitutional amendment coming up, and so there's folks that say, well, hey, I'm not affiliated with a party, so can I still participate? So can you help us kind of walk through some of that?
Yeah, and in Kansas, you're required to register, and there are 4 statuses that are recognized in Kansas. One is Republican, one is Democrat, one is unaffiliated, which means you don't have a party, or libertarian. So those are one of the 4 kind of slots that you will need to fit into if you choose to register. Republican voters will vote on a Republican ballot with their respective candidates and with the constitutional amendment. Democrats, same thing. They will vote on a Democrat ballot with their respective candidates and the constitutional amendment. Unaffiliated and libertarians, again, since they've already had their party's event earlier in the year for their specific candidates, all they're going to be getting is a chance to vote on the constitutional question. And then unaffiliateds, of course, have not had a chance to vote. So they've actually got a couple of different ways they can go. They can choose to remain unaffiliated and receive just the constitutional question, or they can affiliate with a party. And the second they've signed I call it the I'm hereby joining this party card, there's a process that we do to help them join a party. But as soon as you join either the Republican or Democrat party, then you will get that ballot that is for that party. So it's a little hard for people to understand sometimes that unaffiliated voters have a lot of different pathways, but that is how it works. And I think that graphic you got kind of helps to explain that a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. I was gonna say we've got that graphic up for folks to see, especially when it comes to unaffiliated voters. We've had a lot of questions about, do we still get to vote in the primary and that sort of thing? And so, as you can see there, that answer is yes, you do still get to vote in the primary election. What you see on your ballot will look a little bit different. So, for our unaffiliated friends, if you choose to remain unaffiliated, so as of election day, you do still get to vote. The only thing on your ballot will be that constitutional amendment question that we'll be talking about here in just a moment. And we should mention too, Andrew, you mentioned folks who are unaffiliated can choose to affiliate with a party if they want to. Is that something that needs to be done before the registration deadline, or can they do that up until election day?
You can affiliate if you're not affiliated. You can affiliate at any time. There isn't, and it right up until and including election day. So it's an option at any time, depending on which of the 3 methods you choose to vote.
Absolutely. So there you go, folks out there. If you all of a sudden are inspired leading up to election day, if you're unaffiliated and decide that you want to be part of a party that day and vote in their primary, you have the option up until right at the moment of voting on election day. So again, another thing to note. So even though we know that primaries are so much about parties and helping pick those nominees, there is still room for unaffiliated voters to cast their vote, especially because we do have a constitutional amendment question that is so very important for folks. We want everyone to know that you do have something to vote on this election. We just have some people who might spend about 30 to 45 seconds more on their ballot than other folks. So some good things to know there. We've been talking about this constitutional amendment, and a lot of folks have said, whoa, wait, what's going on? And so if folks want to know, what this amendment looks like, what it includes, that sort of thing, can you talk about how they can find that information?
Yeah, we actually there's over 700 different ballot styles in Shawnee County because there are three different sets of ballots. There's all the Republican ballots, there's all the unaffiliated or nonpartisan ballots, or libertarians in this case, and then there's also all the Democrat ballots for each of the roughly 250 precincts. So that equals, we're approaching 750 ballot styles. So when on our website, we have something called Voter View that we encourage people to use, and that will help you see your specific ballot. If you go to that on our website or the Secretary of State's site as well, I encourage people to use the Secretary of State's website because it actually has the statewide database, and it actually will have your specific information as a voter. And if you click on your ballot for your party, you can actually see this language about what's coming up. So it's a helpful tool. Like I said, we have a link to it on our website, and the Secretary of State's office also has a link to it as well.
Absolutely. We just dropped that link down in the comments for you all that are watching. So you can see the link to the Shawnee County Election Office website. And we'll also drop the link to the Kansas Voter View website as well, where you can see that information and see your sample ballot. And we do have on the screen right now where you can actually see the ballot language that you'll be able to find at those locations when you go and see the sample ballot. So you can actually see the language that will appear on your ballot. And you'll see two different pieces of that. So you'll see on there's some background information. So with these ballot questions, there is background information that's included on there. And so you'll have the opportunity to read through there. And then that background information also tells you what happens if you vote yes and what happens if you vote no. So that background information is required to explain in kind of layman's terms what happens if you choose to vote yes or no on that question. And then you have the actual ballot question that's located right next to it. So you have that information out there to review ahead of time, to ask questions about with other folks, with other candidates, things like that. Excuse me, that information is available for you to review at those websites. So again, we've got those out there down in the links below for you to find out. Food delivery orders nowadays, we can track just about everything. You can also track your ballot if you mail it in. And so you've got on the screen there what that status window will look like, where you can actually track the status of your ballot. And if you see that it hasn't been delivered and you sent in a little while ago, like Andrew said, feel free to give them a call because they'll be glad to help you out. Andrew, anything else that you want to encourage people to remember when it comes to voting by mail?
Once you apply, go ahead and go back to that Voter View site. And I encourage people to use either the Secretary of State's site for that or our website. We've got a link to it. Either one's fine. I do encourage people really to follow this closely. I think it's a super useful tool, like you just said. You can see if we know that you've requested a ballot, because we've got that as the status on here. The fact that the application has been sent, we can see that on here, and then application status accepted. So there's a number of different stats. You're right, that I think that is a very useful tool. In fact, I had a voter in 2020 call me and say, hey, I don't know why my ballot isn't showing received. And I got to looking into it, and it was in process, but hadn't actually gotten completed. So it's a very useful tool for us for communication purposes, to actually kind of communicate with voters. So I really love that. It's like you said, it's an effective tool to make sure that you can tell if we received it or not. So I encourage people to use that. I guess the other thing I would encourage people to do is consider working as an election worker for us. We need election workers, and I know people are interested. And rather than wonder how it works, there is no better way than to be an election worker and get to see it firsthand, be a part of the process. So I highly encourage people, call our office. We have applications. There are some requirements. You have to be a registered voter. I think you have to be at least 16, and there's some exceptions, but just really encourage people to consider being an election worker. It's a great way to see how it really works and how secure it really is, and how much time and effort we put into making sure that every vote gets cast and gets counted. So
absolutely. Yeah, we've got
So
the information up on the screen there too about being an election worker. You know, one of the things I think that's really cool that people don't realize is you actually can be a student, if I recall right, and be an election worker as well.
correct. You can be 16 as long as you're a citizen. Also, we're paying a little over $100 for a full shift worker, so there is some pay involved. So I encourage people to. I call it, you're not going to get rich being an election worker, but to me, it does give you something for your troubles and time. We do have training that is required by law that people have to attend for 3 hours, and we can do shifts. People can be a shift worker. I like full day workers because it's 14 hours of work. It's a lot from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then you've got probably an hour's worth of closing, and then you've got all the setup work in the early morning. So it takes a lot. But I guess I would just encourage people to consider that, and feel free to call us at 251-5900 if you're interested. So.
Absolutely. We definitely encourage that as well. It's great to see the process up close. I wish like 16-year-old Angel knew about this because I would have been all over that back in the day. So that is awesome. A chance to see that process up close and personal.
Yeah.
Well, very good.
On security, just a reminder, like I said, there is a piece of paper for every voter. So if there's ever a major question about something, we always have the ability to check all the records and actually go grab the piece of paper with a Republican and a Democrat team and figure out what happened. So I feel good about it. Our processes are carefully vetted. I think we do a good job of making sure that we really keep track of everybody's vote. And I think people should feel secure about it.
Absolutely. I was going to say, I feel I've always felt really good about the security of Shawnee County's elections, partly because of so many processes and so many redundancies that are built into the system as well. Yeah, I encourage you, if you all do have a chance to visit the election office, it is cool, especially on election day, to see it all happen. It is a well-oiled machine. I think last time I went there, I was dropping off my mail ballot for the Auburn Washburn bail election because, of course, I waited until the last minute to do that. So I dropped it off, but I was in good company because there were a lot of people there, and that's what was amazing was there were a lot of us there, but we got in and out pretty darn quick, and everything we all had a line to go through, and it all worked out really smooth.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people work very hard to make sure that we do good customer service and take care of people. So anyway, I appreciate the chance to visit with you and talk about all these details because they're important, and it is helpful for people to hear about. All the questions you're asking are great because people need to get all the information so they can understand the best way to access all their options.
Absolutely. Well, we should remind people too, that every election, of course, is important. The primary election, because we do have that constitutional question, is very important. But one of the things to know too is, unfortunately, primary elections do tend to see lower voter turnout. And so that's one of the things that I know so many of us would like to change. I'm putting you on the spot right now, but do you recall what voter turnout looked like in our last primary election, in a similar primary election here in Shawnee County?
I actually am expecting if I'm understanding your question, I'm expecting a pretty high turnout for this election.
Did I do something?
I don't really have a sense of that yet, but I think just listening to people and hearing the calls and the questions and I also think the Supreme Court weighing in on this issue, which I don't know that anybody expected. At the same time, I read that we are the first in the nation to deal with the issue of abortion on a ballot question. And so I think that alone will bring some interest and drive some participation. So again, I expect that this will probably be one of the highest turnout primaries I've been a part of since 2012 when I became election commissioner. So
absolutely. Yeah.
The other thing I was going to mention, I meant to mention this earlier, is if people want to see our mail ballot process, we actually have installed some additional windows. Republicans and Democrats are processing those, and they don't look at the ballots. There's a whole series of steps and processes in that process, but we actually have windows where people can view that process now if they want to. So try to keep it as transparent and open and give people the ability to see those processes.
Absolutely. That I think was so good. I know that Brady from your office, we were chatting about that a little bit earlier. So it's great to have just another step of transparency in that process. So that's really great. Well, Andrew, again, I know that you've got a big month ahead of you, and so thank you for everything you all are doing. I hope that after everything's done, that you guys get a chance to grab a beer or two when it's all said and done. So thank
Yeah,
you.
me
We'll
too.
probably be visiting with you again here sometime soon.
Sounds good. I appreciate the opportunity to visit about it. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Have a great weekend. Have a happy 4th of July. Come back with all your fingers and toes intact.
Will do. All right.
Hey, thanks again.
Thanks. You bet. Bye.
Bye. Hey folks, there you've got so talking about a record high voter turnout. You heard it here from the election commissioner himself. I'm expecting a record high voter turnout for that primary election. So let's make it happen. Those primary elections do tend to have not just lower voter turnout, but ridiculously lower voter turnout in a lot of ways. So we have the chance to turn that around. He is also correct. With the Supreme Court's recent ruling overturning Roe versus Wade, Kansas is the first state in the country that is going to have a ballot initiative related to abortion on the ballot. And so there will be a lot of eyes on Kansas come August 2nd for the primary election. And so one of many reasons to make your voice heard on that issue. So we've been talking about this, right? We've been talking about why this election is so important. We've got this constitutional amendment on the ballot. We are the first state in the country that's going to be considering a constitutional amendment regarding abortion in the wake of the Supreme Court's ruling. We typically have lower voter turnout in primary elections. So important for folks to get out and vote on election day on August 2nd. But how do we make that happen? How can we encourage our friends, our families, our networks to actually get out and vote? If you're someone like myself that has been doing voter registration stuff for a while, one of the things we find is there are a lot of people out there who are registered to vote. I've gone door to door, and other people have gone door to door. We'll have tables and say, "Hey, register to vote," and we find a lot of people who are registered, which is awesome. But what that tells us is that registration is just one piece of that puzzle, right? So it's not enough to just be registered to vote, but how do we get people to actually follow through and go to vote? Especially because there's like 13 different ways to vote now. You heard about, you could do the old school voting in the election office. You can vote in advance by mail. You can vote by in advance in person at the election office. We have so many ways to get that done. There is a very, very cool new tool called Voter to Voter that is here to help with that effort. So the best way I've known to describe Voter to Voter to a lot of my friends and colleagues is it's a little bit like Mary Kay, but for voting. So let me explain, because I know, like, I look like I totally sold Mary Kay, right? But here's the thing: the whole concept of Mary Kay and all the multi-level marketing things out there is, you do your thing and then you find other people who then find other people who then find other people, that kind of concept. So Voter to Voter takes that concept of finding your peers and getting them to recruit other people, but then applies it in the context of voting. So what it does is it's actually an online tool that is completely 100% free for people to use. And it's a tool that allows people to go out and identify folks that they want to motivate to get to the polls. And then it asks people to join their team and find other people in their networks who they can get out to the polls, and so on and so on. And before you know it, you've got scores of people out there who are recruiting their friends, family, coworkers, etc., other people in their networks to go out and vote. So I want to talk to you about what this actually looks like so that you can actually go out and become an ambassador and go out and find your team members. The folks that do Voter to Voter have put together this awesome video that explains really the ins and outs of how Voter to Voter works. It's about an 11-minute long video, but it's really, really, really good stuff. So this video is going to explain to you what Voter to Voter looks like, how you get started with it, how you can even find people so easily with this tool, and how you can use it, again, to really, the whole point is to get people to actually get out and go vote. So we're going to show you this video, and then after this video is done, we're going to talk at you about what this looks like to actually use it and how we can actually use it coming up in advance of the August 2nd primary. So without further ado, get excited, folks. We are here to introduce you to Voter to Voter.
Welcome to Voter to Voter. We think this program is one of the most effective and frankly easy to use voter turnout projects in the state. We hope you like it. I'm going to show you how to get into the tool that we built. I went to votertovoter.org and came to this page. If you've logged in before, Maybe you signed up in 2020, you're not sure what team you're on. Check here first. I'm actually logged in right now and I can tell that because it shows me up in this gray bar that I'm an ambassador on the voter to voters team. I'm going to go ahead and log out and show you what it looks like if you're not logged in on a team. Let's try this again. voter2voter.org. Yeah, so again, if you think you've been here before, but you're not sure, you might try this reset password button and see if that works. But if you know you are registering for the first time, you have a couple of options. You can create a new team using this icon here. You can join our catch-all team, which is called Voter to Voters. See how creative we are over here? Or you can search for an existing team and you don't need to know the full name. You can know a partial name of a team. So I searched Topeka. I found several teams with the name Topeka, with the word Topeka in the name, like the Topeka Voter Collaborative. You could search and find 6 Degrees of Activism. You could search and find the League of Women Voters. I think you get the picture. You're going to click on one of these teams. And this part is a tiny bit tricky. So let me point this out. When you put in an email address and password, if you're here for the first time, go to this register button instead of the big blue login button. I'm sorry that it's bigger than all the others. It's just the way it is for now. I'm going to go ahead and log in and show you what that looks like once you've gone through the registration process. Okay, this is my dashboard. As an individual ambassador, the most important part of this tool is this add a new contact function. You can also add a new contact up from the teal bar. Let me show you what this looks like. But first, let me explain that we have pulled public voter records directly from the state and into the back end of this tool. So the fact that you vote is public, not who you vote for, just whether or not you vote, which is important data. It's powerful data. I won't get into it here. We've done a long video about the background of this program and why we built the tool, and you can watch that video another time. Today, we're just going to talk about the tool, but I wanted to explain that when I'm searching my friends, family, or neighbors, it's pulling straight from voter file records at the state. So I put in Laura Kelly. All the Laura Kellys registered in the state are going to come up here. And I'm going to find the Laura Kelly I'm looking for either via their address, probably from their address and age. I'm going to choose this Laura Kelly living on Cedar Crest Road in Topeka. So I'm going to scroll over to the right and add to my contact list. Let me try one more. I'm going to try James Naismith. We couldn't find any voters that match your contacts information. Okay, so there are no James Naismiths registered in the state of Kansas, which means my friend James is going to need my help getting registered to vote. In the meantime, I'm going to come to this red button and add contact without matching voter. I'm going to skip this part and save and go to list. Now I'm on my contact list, but you can also get through the teal bar. And notice Laura Kelly is on here and James Naismith, but James is not matched. He doesn't have data in these columns. So this first column is a propensity score. This is really important. This is not a super sophisticated model. It's just going to tell you how many of the last 4 November elections someone has participated in. So this number will be a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And our suggestion is that you focus your time and effort on people who have a propensity score of 0, 1, or 2. And they are the most, because they are the most likely to need your help. In fact, we think about this project less as a tool or effort to change people's hearts and minds, and more as an effort to help change someone's behavior or motivate someone's behavior. And while I have a lot of 4s on my personal contact list, the truth is only 11% of the 1.9 million registered voters in this state will be 404 voters. So if you're finding lots of fours, you should recruit them to your team because they're nerds, voting nerds, just like me and you. These zeros, ones, and twos actually make up the largest percentage, and a majority of registered voters in this state will be zeros, ones, or twos. And those are the ones you want to focus on. They likely haven't voted in a local election or are voting in primary elections. Okay, let me explain these columns over here, which I wish read the other direction, but maybe I'll fix that one of these days. Over here on the right, this BALREQ stands for ballot requested. So if you're watching this video, you may already know that signing up to vote by mail in Kansas is really easy to do, way easier than it is in Missouri. You don't need an excuse to vote by mail. You can go online anytime to ksvotes.org and request a ballot be mailed to you. You could do it today before the August primary election in 2022. You could actually sign up for that August ballot and November ballot. They'll start mailing those about 20 days before the election. And at that same time, 20 days before the election, we can ask the Secretary of State's office for a list of everybody who has requested a ballot. And then we're going to upload that data into this tool so you can see which of your friends are being mailed ballots to their homes. And these little buttons will turn green. Cool, huh? And when they turn those ballots in, hopefully immediately, these little buttons that say voted will turn green. We also pull the lists of people who vote early in person, and we pull these lists every day. So if you go to the election office on a Saturday in Douglas County and you vote early in person before the election, we'll have that list by Monday or maybe Tuesday, but hopefully Monday, and we'll upload it. And so these little buttons will update every day in the last 20 days of the election or so. A few more things to show you. You can click on this view button next to your contact's name, your voter's name, see a little bit more information about them and find these 5 key tasks that we like to focus on. You can also find those tasks up here in the toolbar. So you could check on task number 2, which is help a voter submit a vote by mail application at ksvotes.org. You could come in here and then check that off when you get it done, if that helps keep you organized. Oh, let me mention too, that when you add a friend in this tool, they don't know that they're being added. So you can choose to tell them that, or you don't have to. And I have volunteers, we have volunteers that take both approaches. Some people will say, we'll call their friends and just say, hey, there's an election coming up and I'm encouraging everyone to vote. Will you do that? I tend to say to folks, my friends, like, hey, there's an election coming up. I said I would get 10 people to vote. You're one of my 10. Or if they're really close friends, I'll say, dude, Lisa, if you don't vote, I'll know. So you better get it done. So that approach is up to you, but I wanted you to know, because some people ask that. Your friends will not know they're in your contact list. We're not asking for their information either, their email addresses or their phone numbers. We will never contact these voters. This is really here for you so you can target your efforts, focus on those low propensity voters, and so your team at the end of this project can have some data to lean back on and use to share your story moving forward. So what I'd like is that say the Topeka Voter Collaborative, who has a new team, at the end of this could say, we reached out to 500 voters and listen, 80% of them voted and 60% of them had never voted before, or whatever data you want to highlight, that's available to you. And we think that's really important. So there's not much else to show you here. If you click on the teammates tab, you can see who else has joined your team and how many contacts they've added. You can get back to your dashboard. You can go to your team dashboard here and see collectively how many folks you all are contacting and whether they're voting by mail or voting early. You could also copy the link that would take a new user directly to your team so they can get to the login page more quickly. If you have any questions about this, Voter to Voter is a project of the Voter Network. We're at thevoternetwork.org. You can find our contact information here. I also want to point out that we have a lot of resources for new volunteers and ambassadors in our toolkit. We have flyers for the election. We have templates you could copy and paste from, sample texts and emails. And then we have Voter to Voter resources here. So we have a getting started guide. We have tips on recruiting more volunteers, tips on finding contacts to add to your list, etc. We also have some graphics you could pull down and put on your social media if you'd like. And we'd love to hear from you. So if you have any questions or you have recommendations for ways we could improve or ideas for resources that would be really helpful for you, please reach out. And thank you for doing this. And happy voting.
Is that not cool or what, you guys? It's so cool. It's so easy to use. I can attest to it because I myself was able to navigate without a whole lot of issues, without breaking the internet or anything like that. But too cool. You know how easy it is. It takes literally moments to create an account on Voter to Voter, and then the ability to find and add context to your team is super easy. As she walked through the process on there to find and add context to your team, it is really easy. And the fact that it assigns you that score that shows your voter propensity, how smart is that? And it's a great way, that dashboard. As you all can tell, a nerd in a lot of ways, but to have a dashboard that shows the process, the progress that your team has made so far, what a way to be able to motivate other folks on your team too, and build that excitement leading up to election day, and actually giving you the tools too to contact your friends and say, hey, I see that you haven't had a chance to cast your vote yet. This really gives you all the information at your fingertips you need to be able to get people motivated and get out to the polls. I encourage you to head to the website. We put the website down in the comments below, but it's just votertovoter.org /VOTV. Votertovoter.org /VOTV. That's the website. You can go there and you can actually make an account. I mentioned it takes just a matter of minutes to make your account on Voter to Voter and make yourself a team on Voter to Voter, and then people will be able to search and find your team on there. Shameless self-promotion. I have a team, the Topeka Voter Collaborative. When you go to the Voter to Voter website, if you type in the search Topeka Voter Collaborative, you can join our team as an ambassador. And that means you'll be someone that can help us go out and find additional voters, additional contacts to reach out to. And again, they've got all the templates right there on the website for communications that you can use to the folks who are on your team, your contacts that you're reaching out to. So I highly encourage you, think about the networks you're in. You know, when it comes to trying out something like this, it can kind of seem overwhelming at first, but think about your networks. Think about those places you are already a part of. Think about your churches, your civic groups, your neighborhood organizations you're already a part of. That's a captive audience of people right there. And don't assume that all of them are going to be those number 4 high propensity voters. You might have some of those folks that are people who vote, for instance, in the presidential, in the quote unquote big elections, but they might skip these off year elections. So you have the ability, if you've got a roster of people in your neighborhood association or a roster of folks for your church or any other civic group, you can start entering names and add them as contacts from that roster. Again, as I think she mentioned in that video, folks don't know that you've added them onto that team, but you have the ability to add contacts that you can then reach out to with subsequent messaging about voting and how to get to the polls and that sort of thing. So this tool, I encourage you, there's actually going to be, they've had so much interest, especially in the last couple of weeks about this tool, they've actually added an extra training session on it. So I'm going to put in the chat right now, they are doing an additional training session tomorrow at 1:00 p.m. The Voter Network. So the Voter Network, I should mention, is the organization that put this tool together. And so they are having an additional Zoom training tomorrow at 1 o'clock p.m. And so I just dropped that link in the comments below. And so that's going to be a virtual training. And so you'll have the opportunity to get on there and to ask questions and that sort of thing and work through the tool with folks from the Voter Network. So drop that link down there in the comments. But again, just want to challenge you to think about how you can use that tool to reach people. When we think about our networks, we talk all the time about the fact that Topeka is the biggest small town ever. When you think about how many connections that we have as a community, think about what happened if we all committed to reaching out to 3 people, just 3 people in our community, and then challenge those 3 to reach out to another 3, and so on and so on. Think about how many folks we could reach. You guys, we could blow their voter numbers out of the water on August 2nd. We've got a little over a whole month to make that happen. So I challenge you to get on the website, play around. I promise you can't break anything. Try out the training that's going to happen at 1 o'clock p.m. tomorrow, where you can find more answers to your questions on there. So folks, we're going to get ready to wrap things up. I'm going to finish up my beer here for tonight. But a couple of things I want you to take away. Again, as Andrew mentioned at the beginning of this show, everyone, regardless if you're a Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, or unaffiliated, everyone has something to vote for on the primary election ballot. You're going to be voting if you're affiliated with a party. You're going to be voting in some of those key state races. In primaries, we've got a primary for state treasurer, for attorney general. We have on the Republican side a gubernatorial primary. There are actually, I guess, probably more of a coronation. Maybe it's happening on the Republican side. Now we think about in the gubernatorial race, but there are other contested primaries on both the Republican and the Democrat side in all those races. But then everyone, regardless of your party affiliation, has the chance to vote on that abortion amendment, that amendment to the Kansas Constitution. Just a little bit of a background, too, by the way, as to how we kind of even got here with this constitutional amendment. All this stemmed from a Kansas Supreme Court decision a little while back, where the Kansas Supreme Court actually interpreted the Kansas Constitution to find the right to an abortion in the Kansas Constitution. That did not sit well with many in the state legislature. And so out of that came this movement to put a ballot measure on the ballot for folks to be able to, for the people of Kansas to have a say in, rather the right to abortion should exist in the state of Kansas. And rather the legislature should have the ability to regulate that and to control that. And so that's what you're going to be voting on when it comes to August 2nd to the primary election ballot. So I also encourage you to go to that Kansas Voter Review website that we put in the comments and actually see the language, read the language on the ballot for yourself. And encourage you to ask questions, to talk to other people. And so make sure that folks understand what they're going to be voting for on August 2nd on the primary election. So again, get yourself signed up for a voter-to-voter account. Go to Kansas Voter View, where you can go and actually see the language for the constitutional amendment that's going to be on the ballot here in a couple months. Make sure again that everyone in your life is registered to vote. If they're not, you can actually go to ksvotes.org and actually get them registered as quick as can be. So ksvotes.org, you can get folks registered to vote on there. On Kansas Voter View, I'm actually going to share my screen here real quick so you can actually see what that Kansas Voter View website looks like. It's super easy. So we've got up on the screen right now. So again, you see just a place there to enter in your information. After you've done that, I'm actually going to pull up my information on here. So it's going to kick out this profile to you. And so you're going to see your information on here. It's going to show you where you vote. And then here is where you can see those all important sample ballots. And it's going to have, for the primary election, you're going to see the sample Republican, Democratic, and unaffiliated ballots. So when you click any of those ballots, this is a sample of the literal ballot that you will see on election day when you go to your polling place. And so you can see right there, that's where you're going to see the language for the constitutional amendment that will be on the ballot. Just so you know, as you scroll down, you'll be able, when you see this district area, when you click show, it is going to show all the different places that you belong to in terms of what your city council district is, your county commission district, state legislative district, school board. You're going to see all the different places that you belong so that you know what you have the chance to vote on when those races come up. And then down here, you actually get to see your voter history. So you can actually see every single election you voted on, and goes back. In my case, I can go all the way back to 2006, the very first time I was eligible to vote. And let me tell you all, it was an experience because as much of a nerd as I am, you know, it was a big deal. The first time I got to vote, I kid you not, this is a true story. Somewhere here in this house, I still have my I voted sticker from the very first time I voted because I wanted to save it because I thought it was cool. So somewhere around here, I still have that sticker. But I encourage you to check out that Kansas Voter Review website where you can find all the information and especially to see that sample ballot, because that's a great way to know, excuse me, what you're going to be looking for, what you're going to be looking at when you get to the polling place on election day. So, folks, we've covered a lot of ground tonight. Lots of information out there. We're going to talk at you again a lot more between now and August 2nd, because again, we cannot emphasize enough just how important it is for people to show up and make their voice heard on August 2nd. As Andrew mentioned, Kansas is going to be the first state in the union that's going to have a say in abortion on their ballot in the world post the Roe versus Wade reversal by the U.S. Supreme Court. So we are going to be the first state to have a say in that, and so it's going to be so important that folks make their voice heard on election day. If you have questions, you can always reach out to us here on any of our social media platforms, be it here on our Facebook page, on our Twitter page, etc. If you have questions, things you're wondering about, let us know. We are happy to connect you with the people that can answer those questions and make things happen for you. So until then, everybody, as we always say, make sure to drink some good beer here in Top City. Let us know when you do that too. We're always on the lookout for good brews here in Topeka. And the countdown is on, just a little over a month until Election Day and just a few weeks left until the July 12th date to register to vote. So until then, cheers, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks, everybody.
presidency game without my glasses on.
Oops.